The following is a presentation of the Six Arrows Radio Network.
Ham Radio 360 Podcast, episode number 62, Jamboree on the Air, Camp Hope on the Air, and more, all coming up this weekend. It's a special events, special edition. Stay tuned.
MTCRadio.com presents Ham Radio 360, the podcast, with your host, Cale Nelson, K4CDN.
Yeah, so fall has arrived and Cale is excited. It's my favorite time of the year, and this is my favorite time of the week to be on the Ham Radio 360 podcast with you, my friend. Thank you for giving us a listen. We do this every other week, and we fill in the blanks with a very, very interesting program called the Workbench Podcast. So if you stay here on the feed, subscribe to the show, you're going to get both of the shows every other week, opposing week, however you want to look at it. We're creating weekly content for you, the amateur radio operator, or maybe you're just looking to get into the hobby. Maybe I hear this a lot. I've been away from the hobby. I found your podcast. You encouraged me to come back in. You know how great that makes you feel? Thank you for sharing those thoughts with me. Thank you for being here again, listening to the program. We're going to have a lot of fun today. We have fun every time. At least I do, and hope that you enjoy it as well. We're going to talk about some special event stations coming up in the next couple of weeks. Two very important special event stations. We're going to share about those with you in just a moment here. But first, let me tell you about my friends, some very special friends down in Paris, Texas. Richard and Christine Lenore. They started MTCRadio.com as a fill-in. Richard had lost his job. He didn't really know what was coming next. He started with some surplus gear. The next thing he knows, he's moved into his third building. He has a post office in the store with him, and now they are one of the largest dealers in the U.S. for ICOM ham radio gear. If you have some ICOM radio needs, who doesn't? Who does not want the new IC 7300? Who doesn't want a 7100? That's what Cale's wanting for the shack. I tell you, they got the ID51As. They got the ID51 Plus. Please give them a call. Give them a chance to earn your business. You will be surprised and so happy with the customer service. They're my friends down in Paris, Texas. Give them a try. MTCRadio.com. Yeah, so up next here on the Ham Radio 360 podcast, want to welcome in Rick DeWeese. Rick is the scoutmaster of a local troop here in the upstate of South Carolina, and the Jamboree on the Air is coming up. Rick, welcome back in to the Ham Radio 360 podcast.
Hey, not a problem, Cale. I appreciate you taking the time, and as always, appreciate what you do for the ham radio community. And thanks for letting me come on and spread the word a little bit about what Jamboree on the Air really is. And it was great up at the Shelby Ham Fest, actually getting to be able to put a face with a name. And so for anybody out there that hasn't done that yet, I suggest catching up with you at every opportunity just to be able to meet and chat for a little bit, because that's always a good thing as well.
Yeah, nothing like seeing that face made for radio.
Exactly.
Well, it was great to catch up with you, really was. And guys, Rick has been here on the show with us before, back on episode 31, when we did talk about scouting and amateur radio. If you want to go back and revisit that show, it's a really great show. A lot of information. It's back before the name change, but the content's still great. Rick, tell us a little bit about when the Jamboree on the Air happens this year.
All right, so this year, Jamboree on the Air, which is I believe the 59th Jamboree on the Air, is the 14th, 15th, and 16th of October. And so it's about a week away, a little over 2 weeks away, call it, week and 5 days, I guess. And so it is an event. It is a worldwide event. A lot of people think that, this is just something that is here in the United States or maybe in North America. But in fact, it is a worldwide event. And I think last year they had 1.1 or 1.2 million scouts talking to each other from all over the world. A year before that was a little bit larger. It was like 1.3. It's Boy Scouts, it's Girl Scouts, it's Girl Guides. It's the whole scouting community getting together at one time. And using ham radio as one venue, there's also actually Jamboree on the internet that they're bringing out now to try to bring in some of those technologies. But it's just an opportunity for kids to talk to each other and for young scouts to talk to each other on the air.
I didn't realize that it was anyone else other than the Boy Scouts of America.
Oh yeah, it is the worldwide scouting community, and in fact, if you go to the ARRL.org site, you can go to the Jamboree on the Air page that they have, and you can look. There are Scout Station call signs there's K2BSA, which is Texas. There's JA1YSS, which is Japan. There's Netherlands, Kenya, Australia, London, Mexico, Philippines, Iceland. And I mean, it's all over the place.
And it's a great opportunity. You know, I hear these discussions all the time, Rick, and I'm sure you hear it too. Oh my gosh, the hobby's dying. None of the kids want to play on the radio. I see so many people up in arms. I do these shows about bringing the youth into the hobby. What can we do? They have less downloads than some of our other shows, which really surprises me because I hear so many people lamenting the fact that the hobby is going to die because kids don't want to play on the radio. I produce a show about kids playing on the radio, and less people listen to it than they do, say, one about I don't know, multimeters or something. So not knocking any of the other programs we have, but here recently we've done a show about the youth on the air. Now we're doing Jamboree on the air. A good reminder, there are things happening out there, folks, that you can personally be involved with in your local hometown, just like the Jamboree on the air. Just in a few weeks. And it's a great opportunity. A lot of local clubs participate in this. A lot of clubs set up and have, I know locally in Spartanburg, we take the trailer to the local scouting area. They bring the troops in and they let the guys play. But some clubs really go big. Others kind of go small. Some of course are not involved at all. But even the troops at times, like yours, really have a big presence on the air because you guys are like the radio troop.
Yeah, well, it's really interesting. One of the things that I have found, and it's probably the one thing that may be, I don't know, perhaps a roadblock for a lot of young people on the air, is they want to talk to young people. I mean, I don't mind talking to kids. I enjoy it. Now, granted, every time you talk to a kid on the radio, you typically can't pull the words out of them because they're not built that way, okay? Yeah. They have been told all their lives to sit in a chair, be quiet, and only speak when spoken to at school, and so it's not a habit for them to communicate with older people. But if you get them amongst themselves, they talk to each other just feverishly. And so one of the benefits of the Jamboree on the air is if you can get scouts talking to scouts, it sometimes is a little bit easier to get them to actually communicate. The other thing that I've seen is that if you do contact a scout, be the major player in the conversation, because they enjoy listening, but sometimes they don't necessarily enjoy talking because it's completely new to them. It's foreign to them. And so this is a good opportunity, Jamboree on the air, to let them talk to other people and listen to other people's stories from other parts of the country and do things like that. That is really fun and enjoyable.
Tell me a little bit about what you guys personally, your troop, will be doing for this year's Jamboree on the air.
Well, this year we're going to set up at the church where we typically meet, and we're just going to set up a couple radios and sit around and have a good time. And we're not planning on doing anything big. Anybody that wants to come along and enjoy the ride, that's fine. And we have oftentimes we've had members of the church come up and say, hey, can my daughter come and learn or do whatever? And I'm like, from my standpoint, sure. I don't care. Yeah. Like I said the last time I was on the program, a lot of the skills that we teach in scouting and amateur radio is a skill. It truly is. And it's a lifelong skill, and it should be, well, just that, a life skill.
Yep. Well, let me put this in front of you. Are you going to be operating? You said a couple of radios. Are you doing VHF, UHF? Are you putting the kids with handy talkies with one another? Is it going to be? We've got an HF station over here with an 80-meter dipole. Kind of give me a feel for what I could expect if I was a kid coming to your particular event.
Sure, we're going to have we'll probably put up a VHF unit just because 2 meter is so active in the area, and we can almost always find somebody to talk to on 2 meters, whether the band conditions are good or not. We're very blessed with that situation in this area. Repeaters all over the place, so we have a long range, and we just have the ability to do that. We'll also probably have an HF rig set up. Don't know what frequencies, but typically we're on 20 and 40. The only reason we don't get on 80 is because the antennas just get to be so big. And you know, it's more of a logistics and setup thing than anything else. But for us, it's like a mini field day, if you will, just to put things up. And then at that point, let's see, I think right now I have 5 operators that are in my troop, amateur radio operators, all assistant scout masters and registered leaders. So I am very blessed with that. We are constantly, everywhere we go, we take the little handy talkies and let the kids talk on them and try to encourage them for that, with that as much as possible. Again, because part of the way, at least for us, that we encourage that activity is through peer pressure, believe it or not. And, as you well know, having kids, when your kids see somebody else doing something and they think it's cool, well, they want to get in on it too.
Yep.
And that's exactly the lever that we're trying to use with that.
Very good, very good. Well, it is coming up really soon, and it's a big event. It's always a big event every year. It's like you said, last year was down just a little bit. Who knows what will happen this year? But if you're involved with your local club, now granted, we're really close to the event happening here, but I'm going to bet that somebody in your club has a contact with the Scouts, and more than likely, most clubs will be participating anyway. So get out and have some fun with the Scouts. If you're a guy like me who doesn't get to go play with the club very often, if you've got time, leave your VHF radio on. You never know. You may hear a call over the repeater in the middle of a Saturday afternoon when most everyone else is watching the college ball game. And, of course, 20, 40, maybe even 80, there'll be some calls out there. So I want to encourage you guys to make yourself available for these young people that everybody's scared to death that they're not going to continue the hobby. This is our chance right here, folks, to really shine in their eyes and encourage them to want to do what we're doing.
Yeah, that's a very good point. It doesn't matter if you're a member of a club or just sitting around in your ham shack or just happen to have a radio on your desk. Turn it on and scan around, and if you happen to hear somebody call CQ Jamboree, it's probably a scout. If you're hearing someone calling something like K2 or K4 BSA or one of the BSA call signs, it's probably a scout. And sometimes, clubs get involved, but quite honestly, what we need is individuals that are willing to talk to young people that are out there trying to make contacts. Because in a lot of situations, the setups that we have in order to make those contacts are portable stations. They are not, it's not like we're going to a large ham shack setup in order to make this contact. Normally, we're outside of a church in a park somewhere or something like that, operating portable, trying to make some contacts to help the Scouts understand and get a little bit enthused about radios. And in order to make that magic happen, in order to make it truly connect and catch on, we need someone on the other end of that transmission.
Yeah, very good point. Very good. And we know we have a lot of people doing the NAPOTA thing. National Parks is just smoking hot. And granted, they've only got 2 months left until that's over. I don't know what those people are going to do. I feel we may have some issues when that stops. I hope the ARRL has something else planned because that has been crazy this year. But this is just another opportunity, just like the National Parks on the air, just like the W1AWs from a year or so ago. It's another great opportunity to get on the air, to have fun, and in this case, make a kid smile. And who doesn't love to see a kid smile? I remember as a 40-some-odd-year-old, no, maybe I wasn't even 40. I was close to 40 when I first got my ticket. I get on the air, I make my first contact, and I was beaming. I can just imagine doing it, sitting there with 6 or 8 of my buddies from my Cub Scout group, and I talked to somebody on the radio. Can you imagine all the smile? Well, you see it all the time. So I just want to encourage all the listeners, again, to get out there, get on the air? It's Jamboree on the Air. Rick, give us one more time the days and the times that we can find you guys on the air.
Sure. The days for Jamboree on the Air are the 14th, 15th, and 16th of October. So it's in a couple. It's coming up quick. For information, again, the ARRL.org site for the Jamboree on the Air page. And there's also a scouting page, especially for the international stuff that's out there, is JOTA, which is Jamboree on the Air, JOTI, all connected one word, .info. And that is the International Scouting Communities page for Jamboree on the Air and Jamboree on the Internet.
Cool.
And so there's a lot of stuff that you can find. There's a countdown clock. There's all kinds of stuff that you can go out there and search. And most importantly, on that particular page, the JOTA .info page, they're scrolling pictures of scouts talking on the radios, and most of them are smiling.
I knew it. Well, that's great stuff, Rick. Man, thanks again. And I will have my radios on that day. And I will do my best to get some connections, be monitoring the 610 machine maybe on the handy talkie, and maybe even crossband some stuff up to you guys. But I wish you luck with the group. Thanks again for coming back on the program. It's always great to catch up with you, and thanks for serving our kids, man.
Hey, not a problem. I enjoy it thoroughly. Thank you very much for having me.
Hi, Dan, KB6NU here. Whether you're studying for your tech license or looking to upgrade to general or extra, you should check out my no-nonsense amateur radio license study guides. Written in my easy-to-understand, no-nonsense style, they really are the easiest way to learn what you need to know to pass the test. And they are always up to date. The PDF version of the Technician Class Study Guide is free on my website at kb6nu.com/podcast, and all my study guides are available in print, PDF, Kindle, and EPUB versions. Let me help you have more fun with ham radio. Go to kb6nu.com/podcast and get started today.
So coming up the same weekend as the Jamboree on the Air, we also have the Camp Hope Special Event Station, which celebrates the big event down in Houston, Texas at the Camp Hope facility. It's a huge barbecue. Lots and lots and lots. I'm talking thousands of people come in and go through the property and enjoy the day there on the grounds. They have been doing some amateur radio work there. They're going to enhance that this year. It's going to be a really great time. I want to welcome in right now to the program Jim and Bob. Guys, thank you so much for coming on the show. We really appreciate you being here.
It's a real pleasure, Cale. It's definitely a real pleasure to be here.
Thanks, Cale. Thanks for the invite.
Yeah, well, we're excited about what you guys are doing. Bob, tell us a little bit about your story, and then we want to learn about Camp Hope and what you're doing with a special event station down there.
Bob Hawkins at KD5AT, and is my call sign. And the story starts for me back in 2006, 2007 time frame. I had lost a business, and I was about to lose my wife, and I started going through some pretty stout depression. I'd met Jim about a year earlier, long before Camp Hope was established, and Jim spent a considerable amount of time with me, just sitting in his backyard and patio, just helping me walk through these events that might have meant I had a divorce. It might have meant a lot of other things, but he helped me walk through this depression that was the strongest I'd ever been in my lifetime. And then later on, about 4 years later, I saw a similar thing start happening with relation to depression. And this time that trip into the Slough to Spawn was interrupted by ham radio. I met a ham who told me about how to become a ham, and I went home and started studying on ham test online for about 12 hours and got my license, and that was something I crossed off my bucket list that really gave me enough encouragement to kind of get back up on my feet. And in ham radio, I found a huge community that was very supportive and helped me get back to kind of normal functioning. Well, as a few years passed by and Camp Hope began to get started, and I connected back up with Jim and saw what he was doing here, it seemed to make sense that as ham radio and the Fellowship Ham Radio helped my life dramatically, I felt like it could do the same for many of our our warriors and first responders out here at Camp Hope as well, and that's what we're moving toward now.
Now, there's quite a bit of talk, if you look in the right places online, about returning veterans, active duty service personnel taking their own lives on a daily basis. There's push-up challenges I've seen, all sorts of things to try to bring those numbers to light, to a public awakening. What can you tell us about the numbers regarding our former servicemen and even current servicemen, first responders, and whatnot?
In the veteran community, the number of suicides in a 24-hour period are between 18 to 22 every day. In the active duty and reserve community, we're looking at a number of about 3 or 4 a day. Now, part of the reason for that, of course, is the active duty have a infrastructure that supports them within the military organization, and the same with the reserve. With the veterans community, it's a little more difficult. Yes, the VA is uniquely involved in working with them. The need to alert, to bring recognition to the civilian community, and I mean by the civilian community, I refer to the faith-based community, the business community, local government, state government, and federal government as well, and the people, civic organizations. I'll give you an example. In any church of any size, I can guarantee you that about 20% to maybe 30% of that congregation are military veterans, either combat or they served in the military. The numbers roughly vary, but I can tell you this. Out of that 20%, over 50% will have been or will be diagnosed with PTSD.
Staggering numbers there.
It is. Now, and I will say this also, PTSD comes in many forms. I myself had PTSD. Quick background on myself. I am a retired Navy captain. My officer life was as a naval aviator, and I was enlisted. I'm a Mustanger. My first combat tour, I did 3 combat tours in Vietnam. After my first combat tour, I came home and I definitely had some problems. But it wasn't until 22 years later, as I was getting ready to deploy into Desert Storm, I was on 7th Fleet staff at the time, that I realized I had to do something about some issues I had. And I went through a massive program, basically being delivered out of anger, frustration, bitterness, unforgiveness, because I will tell you this. One of the things about PTSD is it's not only medical, but it also has a spiritual background. There's a lot of unforgiveness. There's a lot of wondering. Who are you? You lose your identity with PTSD. I'm not the same person I was then. Where am I now? Why am I this way? Why can't I cope with the simplest of things in life? And that adds to the frustration. There's unforgiveness of self as well, anger, bitterness. These things all complicate and have to be dealt with. But the one thing about PTSD, Cale, is this. Once you deal with the major infrastructure of PTSD and its core causes, you find yourself dealing with all the other frustrations and traumas in your life that must be dealt with as well. Because trauma begets trauma. It will come up. You can't suppress it. At some point you have to. There's a decision that each and every individual has to make to deal with it. And I do believe, yes, one can be healed from it.
But it's not something that we come home from a deployment and we see our wife and kids and everything's rosy again. There's a need to help these guys and gals get through those times, and that is one of the things that Camp Hope was established for. Am I correct?
Yes, indeed. Give you a quick history on Camp Hope. The city of Houston, a lot of people don't know this. Houston's the 3rd largest military retirement community, San Antonio being number 1. We're also the 2nd largest veterans community in the United States, Los Angeles being number 1. The need for arose as a study was done by military ministry with how can we work with the veteran community? And Houston was chosen for that purpose because we were the 3rd largest and there was no base infrastructure here in Houston. So what we finally came to agreement in 2009 was that we had to form another group that could be stationed here and bring people here in Houston to work the issues. That's how the PTSD Foundation of America grew up. Camp Hope is our in-residence program that grew up starting in 2012. We started realizing that we needed to not have just satellite groups meeting on a weekly basis. We needed to have a full-time structure, infrastructure as well, where we worked with people, where we had access 24 hours a day to bring help to them. Over the last 4 years now, since 2012, we've built up our structure. We now have a community center, a training and educational center. We have 4 buildings. We soon hope to be able to house 300 in-house residents. We have a small family area where 2 families, 3 families can live and be here with their husband or wife. But right now, we're not equipped to deal with female veterans suffering with PTSD, but we do have a partnership with Grace After Fire, which is a group that works with and was founded by a Navy veteran. And if I can, I might add at the very moment, one of the things, we work not only with the veteran, but we work with the family. Because here, one of the things we learned in the military, the family is a supporting unit. The military itself, many who have served will say this: I had a family in the military. I know I did. I grew up an Army brat. My father was a sergeant major, career man. And so I grew up in this family environment. But the family becomes an important aspect of healing and recovery, because the family is that unit that holds together. And our aim is to work both with the veteran and the family. So we have both a family support group, and we have veterans, as we call them, warrior groups.
Looking for some Kenwood gear? Look no further than mtcradio.com. Call them today. You can find them online at mtcradio.com. Let them know Kel from hamradio360.com podcast sent you. You need Kenwood gear? They have Kenwood gear at the best prices online. It's Richard, Christine, Tammy, and Danielle at mtcradio.com. Back with Bob and Jim here on Ham Radio 360 podcast. We've been talking about Camp Hope and PTSD. Appreciate you guys being on with us. There's a special event happening there at Camp Hope in Texas, and October the 15th is the date, and you have a special call sign for the event. Give us a call sign, Bob, and tell us a little bit about what the event entails. What are you guys going to be doing there at Camp Hope?
Well, the call sign is K0 Delta, and was available this year. We used it last year. We're going to repeat one of the elements of the event we had last year, which was a continual QSO with the W5LEX, which is the USS Lexington down in Corpus Christi. Those guys were using their 750-watt transmitter on that aircraft carrier. Incidentally, the original transmitter is only 450 watts. But they use their transmitter to call CQ for us, and everyone that answers gets a dual contact with K0 Delta Special Event Station, as well as the Camp Hope Special Event K0 Delta. And we had a lot of fun with that last year. We had 67 contacts out of that. This year we're stepping it up, not 1 notch, but probably about 3 notches. And we're going to do the QSO with the Lexington again, of course, and we've also invited 2 amateur radio clubs, the University of Texas Amateur Radio Club, and that's N5XU, and Jim's alma mater, Texas A&M Aggies, their club, W5AC. And the presidents of these 2 clubs have been fantastic captains to work with. We got Andre Lokeen from UT. I don't have his call sign. And Yu-Ching Gao from A&M, and those guys are really proud to be hams, and they're really proud to support us in our efforts to make a lot of contacts. We're going to be on 20 meters and 40 meters. We're also going to be for the local Houston area on 2 repeaters, which we'll have published at a later time.
Fantastic. Now, the guys and gals from the local or the college clubs there, they're coming to Camp Hope to set up and do their operations that day?
That's correct. They're going to start. They're going to be on the ground operating at 10 a.m. and we've told them to go ahead and have their big gun kilowatt linear stations active at 7 a.m. They can on either band, 20 or 40. And once they're here, our antennas are too close to have them on the same band, so we're going to have them swap 20 meters and 40 meters at an hourly interval to make sure that they get a share of whatever the band conditions are that day. There's possibility of an Echolink channel, but that is pending.
Okay. So, And if we have any updates, of course, we'll be able to share them with our audience through the website, Twitter, Facebook group, and whatever. Tell me a little bit about having those groups of young people come in. Of course, they're rival schools, they're rival amateur radio clubs. They're young people who are in love with the hobby and competition. Do they understand? Are they buying into what you guys are doing at Camp Hope as well?
Oh, very, very much. Of course, Texas A&M has such a military tradition there that they get it. They really get it. And even the UT guys, you'd be surprised how much they get the service element of this and the honor for our vets. I'm very, very proud to have the opportunity to work with these young guys, and I expect them to do extremely well. They're very sharp, and kind of a subtext for me is I really believe that our permanent clubs, like my club, Brazos Valley Amateur Radio Club, that's helping me with this special event, should sponsor university clubs to help mentor these young hams and try to determine how to use ham radio as a tool for research at the universities to help perpetuate our existence as a hobby.
Oh, absolutely. Hey, let me ask you a question. Do you have any sponsors that have come on with you for this particular event on the 15th of October?
Well, yes, we do. When we're looking for more, I have to get hats off to Katie Allen over at Ham Radio Outlet, who's really helped with social media and helped us push a lot of our Facebook posts out. They've donated a couple ARRL 2016 ARRL manuals, and Rochelle over Radio Waves has promised us 2 fan dipole antennas for the clubs to use. The K0 Delta station, by the way, is going to be on remote hams through a local ham, KJ5Y, Pat Connor, I believe his last name, and he's got a kilowatt linear that will be with rotatable Yagi on top of that, so we'll be able to laser down on our contact with the Lexington, which is only like about 200 miles away from us. So it's going to be a solid connection.
So it sounds like to me that you guys have all the ducks in line. You're ready to go. You have participation. You said your local club is participating as well as the school clubs. How many hams do you think you'll have, or how many hams are you anticipating having on hand that morning when you guys get started?
I don't even know, to be honest with you. But here's what we need. I need about the clubs really need 5 people. One to be the liaison to the public. Last year we had about 1,500 people come in, so we need some guys that are not operating. They're standing there talking to the public about what they're doing. But we need a person for logging, a person for HF, running HF, a person for running the VHF station. So they need about 5 people on their team, and so we're looking for some local UT hams to help augment the UT group. And by the way, any alumni for A&M or UT that comes by and checks in is a point, extra point for that team. Is just that they've made a QSO. So if somebody can come by, we want hams to come by. If somebody is not a ham and they want to come by and they want to talk to Lexington, we're going to put them on the air and give them a chance to talk to the big ship down there in Corpus. So the more the merrier. If we have enough folks involved, we might even start the K0 Delta contact with the Lexington on Friday the 14th and maybe even run it all night. But I haven't had enough commitment out of people willing to stay up all night long yet.
Well, let me ask you this: how will you be logging? People will like to know that, as well as are there any special QSL cards or anything that they could look forward to if they get the contacts with you?
We're looking at doing a QSL card. Yes, I had that on my agenda last year, but I failed at it because I just didn't have enough volunteer support. So hopefully we'll find the volunteer support to print the QSL cards and get that out. So we're going to need emails too, because we'll most likely we'll do a QSL card, electronic EQSL that we can actually email out as well as mail a direct card out.
Very good, very good. So it sounds like it's going to be a lot of fun. Now you've got vets on the property there. as well as you're looking to maybe even introduce the hobby to some returning vets, some former service personnel, first responders. It's always good to have folks who have an understanding of emergencies, and who knows better about an emergency than a combat veteran, to have some understanding, some practical application for amateur radio communications. Will you have, you said liaisons there for the public. Is that what you're mentioning, that you'll have people to kind of express the hobby, explain the hobby, and share it that direction?
That's exactly what I mean, Cale. Last year is funny. Last year I had plenty of volunteers, but I didn't have enough volunteers that wanted to operate. I had plenty of guys that helped me set up and tear down, but I did most of the operation myself, and I had one ham that was doing most of the talking to the public. And I'm like, I need all kinds. There's some hams that just want to do all the work and really don't want to talk to people. That's okay. I need those guys, but I also need some guys that want to operate, and need some guys that want to talk to the public. Jim and I have kind of seen this in two phases. One is the K0 Delta station. We're going to keep doing that continuously at every barbecue. And then as the opportunity opens itself, we'll begin to establish the Camp Hope amateur radio team, which I call CHART, which is going to be the group of men who get licensed, who are here, and they're supported by the local Camp Hope Amateur Radio Club that's going to come from various hams throughout the community. And then we'll be able to support things like the MS-150 bike ride, the Houston Marathon, the bike around the bay, as well as emergency relief efforts through our local areas chapters.
Excellent.
Yeah, I might throw in the fact that the one thing about amateur radio, rehabilitation comes in many forms. One of the things that we have done with our veterans here is equine rehabilitation. It works very well because it brings a need of accomplishing something. And what we'd like to do with the radio program is the same thing. Active participation, giving a need. One of the things about life is that all of us as people have a need. That's part of our human spirit. We have a need to serve, whatever that service might be. And we're trying to create that here as part of not only a rehabilitation, but a road back to complete and total identity of who the individual is. He has a purpose in life. She has a purpose in life. And this can give part of that need so vitally. And the other thing is giving back to the community. The community gives to us. We want to give back to the community.
Yeah, in light of that, Cale, too, one of the first steps we do once we start the club is to establish an EchoLink conference for vets, and begin to do a weekly net for vets on EchoLink, such that any vet anywhere in the world can be able to log into the VetNet, if you will, and be able to talk about the things he's facing. And
I like the way that sounded, the VetNet. That's pretty sweet.
And so that's the first step, and certainly with all the locations that PTSD USA has, was it like 6 or 7 now, Jim?
Yeah.
Okay. The further on extension of that to be able to establish substations with hams local, and invite some other clubs to those substations to be able to support the vets there with eyeball QSOs, with pats on the back, with how can I help you find a job? I mean, what do you need? And so that's the kind of support. When I first got into ham radio, I was so broke at the time I couldn't afford a ham radio. And what happened? A guy from the local club says, I got an extra one. I'll loan it to you for as long as you need it. And I had that radio for 6 months before I got my own. And we want people to have enough heart for vets that they're willing to do the same thing.
Well, and I have found in my very short time as an amateur, and most especially here as a podcaster, that the amateur community, the amateur radio community, is one of the most giving and loyal establishments that I've ever participated in, and I've really appreciated that from everyone who has paid in to me personally, as I know that they will have done for you and others as they follow up. So really excited about it. Again, give me the time, your central time if I'm not mistaken, so give me the times and the date again, and if there's a website or Facebook page or something they can look at, Bob, get us there as well.
Absolutely. The Facebook page is Camp Hope ARC, spelled like it sounds, Camp Hope ARC. That Facebook page I need to disclose does not belong to Camp Hope. Camp Hope is not responsible for the content there. I alone am responsible for any content that's there. It's my Facebook page, but once we have a club, we'll transfer that. So you can see any videos, any content I've had, and I'm trying to add additional media to that. The event officially is Friday, October the 14th, and Saturday, October 15th. We know we're committed to operating times right now. It's 7 a.m. to 4 p.m. For both the college clubs and for the K0 Delta station. And as I said earlier, depending on availability, we might even start the K0 Delta station on the 14th, Friday night, and possibly work it all night long. To find more information about Camp Hope, you can see www.ptsdusa.org. And don't let me leave out the opportunity to say, if there's a vet out there right now that's going to hear this and needs help is available. Jim, you got a number?
Yeah.
Okay.
There's two numbers. One is also you can call the Veterans Crisis Hotline, which is the VA, and that's 1-800-273-8255. Press 1 when you make connection. And our veteran line is 877-717-7873. And my personal work number here is 832-912-4429, extension 105. And I might add, too, that everything at Camp Hope, if a veteran comes into our residence program, it does not cost him $1. We fund it all through donations from the public and from other sources. But the person coming into our program, it's free to him.
Excellent. Well, I appreciate, Jim, I first appreciate your service, and secondly, your service to our veterans, returning war heroes, warriors, and men and women of uniform, as well as first responders. Bob, I thank you for your dedication to your fellow man, and you're working diligently to see this happen. We'll have all of the links that you mentioned in our show notes, and look forward to setting up my station and making a contact down there on the 15th. Wish you all the best. Just really look forward to some great reports coming back after the event.
Hey, Kel, one last comment. Sure. If there's a ham out there that wants to talk with me about how they might be of some help, just look me up on QRZ, KD5AT on QRZ, and my email's there.
Fantastic. Bob, Jim, thank you both very much, and wish you well with this venture, and look forward to some great reports coming out of it. So there you go. There's some great opportunities to get on the air and to connect with young people. The same people we're scared to death aren't going to like ham radio. They're going to be on the radio in just a few days, the 14th, 15th, and 16th of October, wanting to make contacts with somebody. So get your gear, turn your gear on. Even if you don't have an HF rig, you may not need that. There may be some local scouts in your area trying to make contact with someone on your local repeater. So turn your handy-talkie on, turn your mobile on. You don't know, but I guarantee you, if you make the contact, you're going to make a kid smile, you're going to plant a seed, you're going to set a hook, and who knows what that kid can turn into by utilizing this great hobby we all know and love as amateur radio. Hey, a big thank you to Rick DeWeese, Bob Hawkins, and Jim Merriman. Thank you guys for all of your service to your local communities, through scouting, through the Camp Hope special events. It's going to be a lot of fun. I can't wait to get on the air and try to make some contacts with those local clubs down there fighting, the two college clubs fighting to make the most contacts. That's going to be a lot of fun. Hey, before I go, very special thank you to Dave. Dave just came on as a patron through Patreon. It's the little orange P logo there on the website, hamradio360.com. It's a value for value thing. If you're getting some value out of what we're doing here and you want to support us, we'll appreciate it, and we'll say thank you every time we have the opportunity. Dave, welcome in. We thank you very much again for that support. Guys, I'm going to go. I'll be back in 2 weeks, and hopefully I'll have some great guests to share with you here on Ham Radio 360. Don't forget, Workbench comes up next week, and I will see you then. God bless you guys. 73, y'all.
Thank you for listening to Ham Radio 360, brought to you by mtcradio.com. For more information about the program, visit hamradio360.com. Till next time, 73s, y'all.